Hello, thanks very much for joining me again. Today what I'm going to be looking at is a little brass part. We've had lots and lots of kits arrive this week. It always happens, everything comes at once, doesn't it? And of all the kits we've got, the thing that I've been really wanting to get in the workshop and have a play with is this little brass thing here. I'll hold that up, you can see it's actually the small threaded brass connector. Now you've probably heard and seen of secret compartment kits. Well, this is our kind of version of it, only no brass tubes involved, so the only thing that's stopping you making this however you want is really your imagination. So there you can see the one end and there's the other end with the thread. It's a bit difficult to hold it and show you at the same time, but basically what these are is two solid brass bits that screw together like so. They need an 11mm drill for this part to be inserted, an 11mm drill for this part to be inserted. They've got little rings on them, if the camera will pick that up, so there's space for some glue in there. And because they're solid brass, you can turn these when you're turning your wooden parts. Alternatively, because the widest section here is 20mm, you can actually do a small countersink and actually insert the whole of the brass section in, so your wood meets up together and you don't see the brass at all until the two sections are parted, which is quite nice, and that's what I'm going to have a look at today. Now I came in and had a play with these yesterday. I drilled some holes. I pushed them in between two bits of very rough wood. It was a very rough trial and I was hoping I wouldn't have to glue them in and it would hold the wood, and it didn't, and it all twisted, and I turned the bits and these round bits ended up being oval, and I then tried to correct it, but I did actually manage to correct it, and here you'll see a little thing. It's by no means perfect because I actually damaged the brass parts, but I still managed to recover them, and that is, if I can unscrew that, a little toothpick holder. Well, it would be if we had toothpicks. My lovely wife informed me we had got toothpicks, and then I found actually they're cocktail sticks, so these are cocktail sticks rather than toothpicks. But that's just an idea, and that was really just to show that unlike a tube based kit where you're limited as to what size both ends can be, there's no limit with this at all. So just to recap the sizes again, it's 11mm for the outside, 20mm for the inside. The centre hole is around about 8mm, and they go back on like so, and that will screw on there. And for a toothpick, that's quite a nice little thing to sit on a table, and probably quite interesting, certainly if you're a chess lover, because it looks a bit like a pawn. So the one I've already done, you can see the brass is on the outside, and that was turned with the piece of wood, and it then had the finish added to it as the finish was put on the wood as well. What I'm going to do this morning is just slightly different. I've not tried it this way before, but I've got a blank. What I'm basically going to do is cut this in half. I'm going to drill my holes, and obviously you can drill your internal hole as long as you want it. If you've got a foot long drill, you can drill it a foot long if you want to, and have whatever size internal section you want. But I'm going to drill a little bit, probably that's going to be in the chuck, so we're looking at a piece around about that size. I don't know what it is, probably 60-70 mils, something like that. I'm going to countersink both the parts and try and fix the wood together, screw it together and then turn it so it's all turned as one piece, but when it's finished hopefully it'll unscrew as two separate pieces. That's the plan anyway. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go onto the bandsaw. I'm not going to film this because it's pretty boring to watch. I'm going to cut this in half. I'm going to drill my 11mm hole in both ends. I'm going to do my countersinks, and I'm going to glue the brass parts in, and I'll bring those back to the camera in a second. Screw them up, we'll put it in the chuck on the lathe, and we'll turn it and we'll see what happens. Now, having just said all that, I've changed my mind, because actually I've decided the drilling bit is probably actually quite important. I would normally do it on the pillar drill just to save me moving the camera. I'm actually going to do all the drilling on the lathe and show you that, and I'm hoping it's going to work. Personally, I'd rather use the pillar drill, but we'll do it here, so those that don't have a pillar drill can see that it can be done on a lathe as well, just as easily. So I'll just move the camera down to the lathe, and then you can see me do the drilling parts and put the bits in together. So I'm starting off at about 600 RPM and a 20mm Forstner bit, and I'm going to drill the first countersink for the flat brass section. And I've got to get the part because you can actually check with the part to see how the countersink fits in, and you can see that fits in quite nicely. The Forstner bit is going to leave a little indentation there where the 11mm drill should hopefully be centred on that and go straight through. It needs to be just a little bit deeper. Best to go slightly over rather than under, and then you can trim the wood back. If it's flush with the wood to start with, you might not be able to have the space to trim it back any. Being solid brass is not the end of the world, because you can polish it and sand it and do all kinds of things with it even when it's fitted. And this is the part where you need to measure to make sure that you don't drill past your mark and go too far, because you obviously need an end on this as well. So I've put a little mark there. I think the whole thing is about 90mm long, so this bit's 45, so I should probably drill halfway through there. So probably, I don't know, I'd probably drill 30mm into there or so. Now is the point where I could turn this around if I wanted to and trim off the end. You can either do it now or you can do it after the brass part is finished. It's really entirely up to you. I am going to turn this around now and trim off the end. Then I'm going to glue this section in, and we'll then look at doing the other end and joining the two parts together. What I'm now going to do is actually glue this part in place and give it a chance to set. It doesn't need much glue. I'm just going to put a little bit of CA on there and then just push fit it in. I'm hoping I'm going to have some marks on here when this comes out, because it's going to have to go back in the chuck on there in a few minutes. And you'll see I've actually marked 4 on there, which relates to the jaw number 4 on here, so we try and get it back as close, if not smack on, where it came from. What I'm now going to do is pop this one in, and of course we need to get that as central as we possibly can, and we're now going to repeat the process with this part here. So having done the 2 halves, now I'm going to put the other one back into the chuck, and we'll look at turning the whole piece as one piece together. I've done all this, and what I'm thinking now is maybe I would have been better to do the shorter section first and take it out, and do the longer section later, because I've now got to try and line this up. If I'd put that in, done that second, I could just leave it in there and screw the other section on, but we'll see what happens anyway. Now this is the point where you might want to measure. We know the brass parts that are hidden in there are 20 mils. They probably need a good couple of millimetres around them as well, so you need to make sure that you probably don't turn that down below around about 24 millimetres. I'm not going to do much shaping on here. I'm literally going to just curve both ends, and then we'll look at finishing this. It's really just to show you how to use the kit rather than what you can turn with it. So it's probably a little bit large for a secret compartment kit. You could make it narrower, as I said, but there you can see we have the two brass parts and a little bit of sawdust there as well. But that gives you an idea of what can be done. I've done this one in Sapele. Can't really see much of a join because there's not a huge distinctive grain pattern on that, but you can see it's quite a simple kit, quite versatile. You could use that for all kinds of things. So I hope that's been useful. There are the two kits. That's the one with the exposed brass parts, and this one here is the secret compartment, all enclosed there. I'll just unscrew that again so you can see they're nicely threaded, they're nicely engineered brass pieces, those. Or could you use it for secret compartment kit, sewing a seamstress's needle holder maybe, toothpicks we've already looked at, tea and coffee sweeteners maybe. If you make walking sticks, you can build a secret compartment into your walking stick as well. I'm sure that you'll have lots and lots of ideas of other uses for this, but I hope by showing you how they fit, you'll have an idea of what you might be able to use it for. Thanks very much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you at the next video. Enjoy your turning, making, whatever it is you do in your workshop. Bye bye for now.